I mean, you're a professional photographer. Like, how long were you doing that?
Oh,
Were you
yeah.
doing that before the restaurant?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Since like '82,
Wow.
and in 2012 I started the food truck.
Okay.
So up until then, and then I did photography for a good five years into it,
Yeah.
and then I just kind of backed off. I used to do Syracuse University. I used to do it was a national security studies. So they would bring in 50 2- and 3-star generals and Lockheed Martin, people from all the defense things, and they would do seminars. And it was like an 8-week class when it started. And they would be in the classroom up at Maxwell School. And so we were in a, like a little theater that was, specifically for stuff like that from like 8 in the morning to 8 at night.
Wow.
And, doing all that and stuff. So, and then once the budget's cut and that got cut, I quit doing that.
Yeah.
That was the last big photography job. I mean, it was like an $80,000 job.
Holy
because
hell.
I did video, and photos.
Oh, wow.
And then I would put together like a highlight video at the end of the course for them and stuff. So it was very involved, and
Yeah.
I mean, it took up all my time. And in between, like I would shoot the beginning of one speaker and then the end of another speaker. Then I would leave, come back and shoot the end of that one, and I'd go shoot sports. I'd shoot games in between, run into North Syracuse.
Wow.
And stuff. It was hustling.
Yeah.
It was definitely hustling.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I've got a friend of mine who is he's a professional photographer, and he started around here, but then now they moved to South Carolina. And the opportunities that blew up, like he's about an hour from Myrtle Beach. He had done some first shooter wedding stuff, but a lot of the stuff he was doing was like second shooter
Yeah.
around here, and he might get 1 or 2, like nothing crazy, but make a little bit of money. He went to Myrtle Beach, and there's this guy that has a business just doing beach wedding shoots.
Yeah, portraits and stuff.
And it's not detailed. There's no reception because it's a lot of people that are just going down there just to have their ceremony. And then like there's like 6 of them, and then they go to the restaurant, and that's it. It's not like these massive stressful weddings. But my buddy Steve will be second shooter, and they charge crazy amounts of money down there for it.
Oh yeah.
So he might get $1,000 for like an hour with no editing
To be a bee shooter.
to be a bee shooter on a
that's
beach
like-
real quick.
That's like the best part of weddings is the bee shooting because it's
Yeah.
so easy. You
Right.
put on a little longer lens and you get people, they don't even know you're taking pictures, and
Yeah,
that used to be the best part.
yeah. I mean, Dennis, Dennis Fernando.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I mean, some of his wedding videos, all of his stuff, but some of his wedding videos he's produced, I'm like, holy cow! I can't get over how good they are.
They're cinematic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy how good he is.
Yeah.
He's so talented.
I hate people like that because I see their stuff. I love Dennis; he's a good friend, but I hate. It's like I see their stuff. I'm like, I suck so much when you see their work. It's like, wow, why am I doing this?
It's the style, though. It's not that you suck. It's
Yeah.
a style.
Yeah.
Like there was a guy that used to do video like that, and it was, he zoomed in and all the slow action stuff like they do in the movies and stuff,
Yeah.
and it was incredible 20 years ago because nobody else did that.
Right.
But now that's all you see.
Yeah.
But it definitely took wedding videos up
Yeah.
a step.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing, even like restaurant stuff. I see restaurants today, not a ton in Syracuse, maybe like 1 or 2, but actually maybe just 1 that I know of. But being in New York City and following Instagram accounts down there, or Detroit, even wherever, bigger markets, some of the videos that these restaurants put out of their food that they have somebody come in, it's like, holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the just for a short 15-second Instagram video, and it's one of the most like beautiful things I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the kind of money that they spend on that stuff.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But imagine just the look alone will
Right.
draw people to your restaurant,
Yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah.
then they're out of curiosity. You're going to at least get them once,
Right.
and then hopefully you get them to come back.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I thought about that. I tried it, and this past year we had a restaurant reach out in Poughkeepsie, and I was trying to do more paid video work then, so they were like, "Can you come down? We'll give you a gift card if you come down and make a video." I was like, well, it's a 4-hour drive each way.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to fly.
It's going to need 4 gift cards, one per hour.
Yeah. So I was like, I'll do it for $500. And it was the most I had asked for a restaurant for a video yet. And they were like, okay, great. And so I wound up doing like 4 videos for them.
Yeah.
Super easy to work with. I showed up. They had everything ready. We made the video. They handed me a check when I was leaving, which never happens.
Yeah, you got to beg for it.
Right. And so I was thinking to myself, well, this will be easy. Maybe the secret is I just have to get out of Syracuse. I have to get into a bigger market. And so I started focusing on like Rochester, and then I was trying to put focus on New York City. It was like, well, New York City should be super easy. I'll just message people. I'll say I'm going to be down on this day, and then I'll fly down. Nope, incredibly hard in New York City. It is so difficult to break into New York City and get people. I mean, I obviously haven't messaged everybody. Maybe I've messaged like 50 restaurants out of the 15,000 that there are. But it's surprising.
You think your price would get you in just because even if you tripled your price here, it's still cheaper than New York City.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But even just starting the conversation with them, it's like, nope, we don't do that. We do it this way, or just whatever the case is.
Yeah.
But so
I got calls to do like bar mitzvahs or something down there a couple times.
Oh, really?
Just the logistics of it, I just wouldn't be able to handle it
Yeah.
stress-wise. I'm like a non-stress shooter,
Yeah.
It's like nothing bothered me.
Yeah.
I used to print at Wainwright Photo, and we used to have photographers come in here. They'd sweat through their suit at a wedding. They were so nervous, and stuff. And I was like, you should sweat through your suit.
Yeah.
Look what you did.
Right.
Like, we had one guy, he was holding his camera with his lens up. Hot summer day, drip of sweat on the lens. Shot the group shot of everybody that was there on Hendricks Chapel stairs.
Oh my God.
And it was back before digital where you could fix it.
Yeah.
And he actually fixed it himself, and we made one big print, and I touched up and he touched up. And
Wow.
But that was crazy.
There's a brewery owner in town who got married, 10 years ago. And there's a local photographer who most of us know, and I won't mention their names. But she doesn't do it anymore because of the situation. But apparently they had hired her to do the photos, her wedding photos, and they were so bad. Or I don't know if a file got corrupted or if just the quality of the photos were bad or what happened. But they were so bad that they actually sued her, and they won back essentially like the $5,000 they had paid her.
$5,000 for a wedding.
Yeah, but and then she stopped. She got out of it from that, That's
a killer.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, how could you ever have confidence after that?
Oh no, not at all. I did. We hired this wedding photographer, Rachel. I forget Rachel's last name. But it was shortly after and she did a great job. I think our wedding was $1,500 or $1,800, and she was really, really talented. Got some great shots. And then shortly after, now she's the photographer at Dinosaur Barbecue.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and she does a great job there. She does like all the pizza stuff, and and so that was kind of cool. But to see her go there, because doing a little work with them and stuff.
Yep.
Every time I see her, I'm like, hey, you took my wedding pictures. But I couldn't I did when I first went to college. Almost 20 years ago. 22 years ago, yeah. I went for sound engineering, and I couldn't get a job. I was in Cincinnati. I could not get a job, any like recording studio or anywhere. And so finally, there was this Craigslist ad for a sound engineer saying, I run sound for live bands and do lighting. Hire me for your next band's gig. And so I called him, and I said, it was like, look, you don't have to call it an internship. You don't have to pay me anything. Just tell me where you're going to be, when you're going to be there. I'll show up. I'll help do all the grunt work, and just let me be around it and just learn. I just graduated from the recording workshop.
Right.
And he was like, I graduated from there back in 81. He's like, so, all right, fine. Meet me at this bar on this Friday night at 6, and you can help. And so he let me help, but he paid me from like the first gig. And so then for like a year, that's what I did on weekends. We would do, go to sports bars and run sound for these bands. But he would get a couple wedding gigs with them, and I'll never forget the first wedding. It was all CD based back then.
Yeah.
And he said, and I had at the reception, the bridal party was going to walk into the U2 song "A Beautiful Day," which had like just come out at the time.
Right.
But it was like they wanted for each couple walking down the stairs in like this museum, they wanted that just the opening, like this one section. So not only did I have to make sure it was on that section, like hit play on the music and pray nothing got fucked up, but I had to on the CD like skip ahead like 5 seconds, or whatever it was.
Right.
So it started when it did.
Yes.
And then start, and it was just, and I've never been so nervous in my life just to like hit play on a CD player. I could not imagine photographing somebody's wedding.
Oh my God. It's, it never used to bother me.
Yeah.
It was just taking pictures, and I'm not one to be in the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of my stuff was longer distance
Yeah.
and, not in people's faces. And
Yeah.
that was one of the things I noticed, like when digital came along, that photographers were in people's faces all the time with wider lenses and real close up, and then they're in the way of everybody else.
Yeah.
And so I would always, when I deliver stuff, they're like, "Oh my God, I didn't even know you took pictures of that."
Oh, that's wild.
And that was like the biggest compliment to me, and that's what I looked for.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to be part of the show. I wanted to cover the show.
Yeah, for sure.
And nowadays it's totally different. I mean, at the end of my wedding years was the start of digital, and it was like, okay, people are laying in the aisle at the church getting pictures of angles like that, and it's like, but you're so rude. You're being so rude. It's a wedding. It's their day. So So it's a different breed out there, and
no, for sure.
different. Everybody crops everything now.
Yeah.
Back with film, you had to make the picture.
Right. Yeah.
So and transitioning to digital, was like, well, I still made the pictures, so I didn't have to do the work on the computer.
Right.
And it just seems like I've had people shoot, second shooters for me, and everything's wide, and they want to crop everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, but when you crop, you lose.
Right.
And stuff, and but it's different.
Yeah, for sure. I just did a shoot for Fair Deli, and I took like 300 pictures in an hour and a half span, and then get back, and I've got like 50 of those 300, that are, where I'm like, all right, those are good.
Yeah.
And then, and I've always been I listen to Gary Vaynerchuk, like big serial entrepreneur, and talks a ton, like his whole world is about marketing and branding. So I've followed his stuff for years, and he's the type of guy where like his personal accounts, he'll post 5 times a day per platform, different content on each platform.
Wow.
So he's putting out like 30 pieces of content a day of videos of him, whether it's like talking to a business owner or, giving advice or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
So it's just an insane amount of work. But his thing is like, don't micro edit your content, essentially. Just like create it and get it out there, creating. And so for like the last, I'd say 4 years, that's been my mentality of like, it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to exist. Like just get it out there, get it out there. And then now I'm starting to change where I'm like, I think it has to be, well, like nothing's ever going to be perfect, but it needs to be as close to it as I can get, like the best quality. And so now I'll spend maybe, if I go out and do a 2-hour photo shoot, I might spend 5 hours at night in Lightroom with Adobe.
Oh yeah.
Trying to, make everything perfect or tweak it.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy doing that, and I also really hate doing that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I hate doing it. That's the main reason I got out of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I lost I used to do printing for collectors.
Okay.
In the boxing world, and autograph people, and they would go to a concert, take pictures, send me the negatives, and I would print 8x10s.
Oh, cool.
And I had my own 1-hour processor and printer in my office.
Oh, wow.
And I had it down to a science where I knew how much chemicals to add to get it up to the top so that I could bounce out and let stuff print for a couple hours. And so it was like a ton of work. I worked till like 3-4 o'clock in the morning all the time. I had like probably 15 or 20 I lost my biggest one, which was like a $35,000 a year collector.
Wow.
And I lost him immediately because he could print only what he needed.
Wow.
Instead of,
Yeah.
all the other stuff. But it was double the cost of what he paid for me.
Yeah.
But he figured with shipping and stuff that it would be better.
Hmm.
And then within a week or 2 weeks, I lost all of them.
Wow.
Gone. It's like, oh.
That's crazy.
I got to do something else.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah. So it was when you do your own printing and stuff, you have the control of it.
Yeah.
And then, the prints you had to go to a digital printer.
Yeah.
So I bought a digital printer that hooked up to my computer, but it was like just a nightmare the whole time. I was really kind of glad to see it go.
Yeah.
Because of the cost in that. And I put like a $16,000 printer out to the street for scraps.
Wow.
So it was,
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
Is that when you got into the restaurant business? Was that around that time?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, 2012. It was like, the year before that. And then we were sitting like New Year's Eve with friends, and, somebody goes, what would everybody do if they weren't doing what they did now? And I said, I'd probably own a food truck because I just love to cook and I love the aspect of it.
Yeah.
Didn't know how much work it was. It was much easier making money in photography back then. I didn't have to work as hard, but just you love what you do, and then it's not a job, and that's what photography was all those years. And I traveled all over shooting boxing, so it was I got to see a lot and meet a lot of people and stuff. So it was a good thing.
Yeah. So what? Because I don't know much history except for like seeing you post over the years that I've known you from different like boxing matches and photographing it and down at the Hall of Fame and whatnot. So what got you really into like boxing photography or boxing in general?
I always watched boxing when I was a kid, Wide World of Sports, Friday night fights and stuff. And I was from Canastota, where Carmen Basilio and Billy Backus were from, so I always had that in my head. And one Mother's Day, we took my mom to Graziano's for dinner, and we got done, and we said, what do you want to do? You want to go get ice cream or something? Or she goes, no, I want to go to the Boxing Hall of Fame. I was like, what? It's like, okay, that's cheap. Let's go, Dad. And we went over, and, Ed was asking me what I did for a living, and I told him I was a professional photographer. And he goes, well, geez, would you like to shoot our ceremony and our induction? I was like, yeah, I'll do it.
That's cool.
I volunteered.
Yeah.
I still volunteer.
Oh, really?
But it's, it's a passion, though. It's, the first year there was like Bob Foster, Carmen Basilio, Muhammad Ali. And I mean, it was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Look at these people. And I'm sitting front row,
Wow.
And so that was like that's an adrenaline rush and something like that. And I knew the fighters. I knew the names. I watched TV and stuff. So it was incredible to see such a violent sport. But the people that participated, like 90% of them are like gentle giants.
Yeah.
The personalities, the kindness, they'd sign autographs and take pictures, and it was good for them.
Yeah.
And it was a small year because it was the first one. It was like 1990, and at the end of it, it was like, damn, this is fun, And he goes, listen, I really liked what you did, and would you like to be our photographer? And I said, sure.
Wow, that's awesome.
It helped because I printed my own stuff. I had that ability to save money. I knew the Fuji reps and the Kodak reps. So they would give me like 200 rolls of film to shoot. They'd donate it to me.
Wow.
And so it was, I didn't have to spend a lot. It was a lot of time, but it was, who else gets to sit with Mike Tyson or Sylvester Stallone down in the basement of the Hall of Fame as they go through memorabilia and just tell stories like nobody ever heard before.
That's wild.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I still like it. I have Greg Gordon helps me now, and I'm trying to pass the baton a little bit because I just don't have the computers or the time to do the processing.
Oh, for sure.
So it's just complicated.
Yeah. Oh, I can't imagine, like an event like that, I couldn't imagine what a memory card looks like at the end of that. How many photos and whatnot.
So many of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot. It's like it starts real weak on a Thursday, You know, you shoot maybe 1 card, and then
Yeah.
Tuesday or Friday you're going to like 3 cards, and then Saturday you're up to like 15, and then Sundays, you know, it's
Yeah.
you have all the different stages. It's a lot harder with it at the Turning Stone, logistically.
Yeah.
You know, because it's so big and it takes so long to get to places, and
Yeah.
their staff doesn't know that, you know, even though you have a badge that says Boxing Hall of Fame photographer, they still don't want to let you into places, and you got to fight to get in and stuff. But you know, the Turning Stone's beautiful though, so it's, you know, it works. But
yeah, they're really going after it down there. It's really cool to see all the developments that they're making. You know.
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of work with them, and but they're kind of a tough nut to crack sometimes. Like Del Lago Casino, if I like, they'll reach out to Instagrammers and like, hey, come have dinner.
Yeah.
If I contacted Del Lago right now and said like, hey, I'm gonna be in town, can I get a room and dinner, and I'll post about it? They'd be like, sure. If I said that to Turning Stone, they'd like just wouldn't respond.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's definitely a different casino.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a different atmosphere in that, but
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's too bad sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I think that the people miss out when they're, you know, they engage their way and they don't spread their wings.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Makes it tough.
Yeah. The first year that the amphitheater had opened up, it was the same year I was still trying to figure out stuff with Eat Local, and we had a blog at a cert to us, like maybe for a summer we did, and I had 3 writers that were like volunteering time, or I'd pay just a little bit of money to. I paid Margaret McCormick to be like kind of the editor for the blogs, and so I think we only did like 2 or 3 months but we would try to put out like 5 new blogs, like serious blogs a month.
Yeah.
And we had this one guy, he was a photographer, Anthony Cristiano, I think. And so he would go out and cover like events. So he did, like there was the food tour back then in Syracuse. He went and like covered that. He did Tap Into the Most. And then for it was the first year of the amphitheater. So I was like, hey, it might be kind of cool to cover, you know, the concerts up there. So we would get press passes to go up there and you know, shoot them. And one of the first ones he couldn't make, so I did. It was Keith Urban played at the amphitheater.
Oh yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah. And so I didn't know how any of this worked. And I had like my shitty Sony 2, like the A7 II, like bad camera. I think I had my kit lens 28-70 on, you know, 3.5, like not a great lens to have for an event, for a venue. But I didn't know how the logistics worked when you're at a concert venue of like what the rules were. They just said, we'll have the press pass for you. We're going to go, you meet here at this time. We're going to go as a group, and then as a group, we'll walk you out. I thought that was like a suggestion. And so I showed up late. I go to the box office. I've got like my tiny dinky camera with me. And I go to the box. I was like, yeah, I think there's a press pass. Then they handed it to me. I walked through security with my press pass on. I proceeded to walk all around the amphitheater. Like,
take pictures.
I was up at the front row. I was in the back. I was all over that place, just walking around with my camera, taking pictures. Man, this is awesome.
You were cowboying it.
So I get home that night, and I'm like, all right, I'll be nice. I'll send an email to them. Hey, just wanted to say thank you so much for the opportunity. I had such a great time. It was a great show. And immediately I get back, what are you talking about? You weren't at our meetup. It was like, no, I showed up late. But, you know, again, just wanted to say thanks. They were like, you're not allowed to do that. You have to send these pictures to us immediately. You can't use them. And then all of a sudden somebody else has copied, like their head of security. John, please tell us how on earth, you know, and then John writes back, Anthony, what was the color of the shirt? What color shirt was the person wearing who let you in? And so I wound up sending them all the pictures unedited. And they were like, if we ever see these on the internet, like you'll be in trouble.
Oh, and they would find them.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
So I've got all these like, I've got a couple good pictures, but most of them are pretty shitty because I had like a 70 millimeter and I'm, you know, 100 yards away. And and so that it was just like, I still have them on a hard drive somewhere, but of Keith Urban, you know, and, but yeah, that was my lesson that I learned. Like, no, there's a very specific order, and you can't just wander around if you get a press pass.
There's definitely rules with press passes.
Yeah. So, but it was fun. We sent Anthony. He had to go cover like Charlie Daniels and some stuff. And if you're in the pit, you can get some really killer pictures of that stuff.
Yeah, that's like my dream job, being a concert photographer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's all I want to do. I want to sit in a balcony and take pictures.
Yeah.
I don't even care if I'm front row.
Yeah.
It's just to get a different angle and
for sure
and stuff. And
I've seen some guys who do. I follow some bigger photographers or videographers who they'll go on the road with like a comedian or a band, and then they just post the behind the scenes stuff of. I mean, it's one thing to do that as like a single person and like younger. I couldn't nowadays I'd be dead, but
right.
But it's cool to like see
now
them
I
travel.
have a restaurant and a food truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no time to do anything.
Right. All right, so 2012, friends say if you could do anything, you say it would be food truck.
Yep, and then somebody had just retired as a state trooper, and they said, "I'll do it with you." And I said, well, "Don't say it unless you're serious." And that's what happened. And so I think it was our first gig was the St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Wow.
So we were up and running by then. And it was the year that it was like 80 degrees. And, I mean, the place was packed. So, our first ever job, and we're like, what are we doing?
That's wild.
And I know after I had to leave early because I was shooting the state tournament, the basketball tournament for Newsday down in Long Island.
Okay.
So I shot all the state tournaments for them, wrestling, basketball, and stuff. So I had to leave early and go to that. I was so exhausted. I was falling asleep on the court. I could feel my eyes just sleeping. I was like, "Oh, Pat, wake up! You're gonna get crushed down here," you know. But it was exciting, and it just it brought you in. Like, holy crap, this is so good.
That's cool.
And it just exploded from there.
Yeah.
But it took a while. It didn't happen right away. I mean, I bought my first location from Bob Barker.
Okay.
I went down to licensing to get a license, and the girl goes, "Here, call this guy. He wants to get rid of his one location." And I called him and went and saw him, and then he was kind of like a mentor to me. I'd do jobs and they wouldn't go good, and I'd stop at his restaurant and talk to him, and he always said, "Keep it simple."
Yeah.
You just got to keep it simple. And I tried to do that, and add stuff to the menu that we could multi-use things. The same product. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I always cook stuff fresh and did it that way. So
yeah,
and then it just progressed.
Yeah. So what was the food truck scene like back then? I mean, in 2012.
I think there were 6 of us.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Steve Street Eats.
Okay.
He was there. Me, and there were people that I didn't know. They were there one year, and the next year they're gone. Then I think the following year, I think Chicken Bandit came in.
Okay.
And then maybe the following year, Toss and Fire, and Biblos started getting a truck, and we used to do rodeos down on Fayette at the what is that building there? The one behind
the Speedway. I remember the ones on the north side.
No, it's what's the art building there in the corner of Geddes and
Geddes and Fayette.
Yeah, across from Panchitos.
Oh, yeah.
Then it was behind there, the parking lot behind. The guy used to do like custom woodwork and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
And so we used to set up there. That was where we had an outdoor movie, and we showed Chef.
Okay, yeah.
And he saw it posted on the thing and made comments about it. So it's like, holy cow, look at this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was that was the rise of it.
Yeah. I still think, I don't know how you feel about it. You've obviously seen the movie Chef. I still think that was one of the worst things that happened to the restaurant industry because
gosh, yes.
So many people saw that and were like, I love this movie. I love food. I can do it. I can start a food truck.
And we can just run rogue and not get permits. And,
right.
I mean, and that's what they still do now, some of them, I think there's like 150 food trucks in Syracuse. Where are they all?
That's insane.
Where are they all, I mean, you don't see them out there and
Yeah.
stuff, but.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel? I mean, from 2012 with just a few of you, and then now to 2024, and I mean, this past year, and since COVID, I feel like since COVID, the food truck scene in Syracuse has exploded.
Yeah, it's like, I think it exploded because, we went out and did neighborhoods, and during like one of the worst times in our lives, we were bringing joy to people. The people that came out for food trucks in neighborhoods back the first 2 years of COVID, holy crap!
Yeah.
You were working your ass off, and it was like people loved it, and they were calling you back and they were recommending you, and I think we were a bright spot during COVID for people, that they couldn't go to restaurants. They had to get takeout and stuff. And here, some of them would have a DJ or a band, or they just have music blasting, and, they'd have the chairs out, and everybody was social distancing, but, it was, they enjoyed it. The kids got to play and see their friends. And, did it help spread COVID? I mean, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But, some people would probably say, well, you were the problem. But no, we weren't. We were making people happy.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
that was a big thing for people to be able to socialize, because everybody was locked up and stuff. And, they kept their distance. I mean, people weren't hugging and kissing all over the place. So they're not, spreading COVID and that. But it changed food trucks in Syracuse, I think, definitely.
Yeah.
And, it's still the same. I mean, everybody thinks they can do a food truck, and then the first year into it, and they realize they got to do the shopping, they got to create the menu, they got to clean the truck, they've got to cook, they've got to do dishes, and it's complicated. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Oh, yeah. I mean, doing just just Nick's Inner Harbor events, with Through and Fry, like we'll set up a tent, and we did his taco festival he did last year, which we thought was going to be a dud because it was supposed to like thunderstorm tornado that day, and then it wound up being great.
Right.
But so we sold out of food at like 5:00, and it was like, when you're dumb, you're like, all right, this is great. I can pack up and go home early, but there's still like 3 hours of dishes afterwards that you have to bring back to the restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
And then by the time you get all the dishes back there, so yeah, there's so much that goes into it. And, I'd imagine on a food truck, it's like almost like, maybe not so much now that you're like a pro at it, but I'd imagine in the beginning, it feels like everything's like a special event. It's like a festival day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. The events in Syracuse definitely create buzz, and I think we've built some really good events in Syracuse, like the Great Northern Mall.
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
like crazy. You can have 20 trucks in one place, and all the trucks make money.
Yeah,
and people go from truck to truck and get certain things off each truck, and then they meet at a table and they have a smorgasbord. And it's like just to watch what they do, how they navigate, and how excited they are, and they send the kids to get the ice cream, and you go get this, and you go get the lemonade, and everybody scores on it.
Yeah.
If you can't make money at Great Northern, then you're doing something wrong. You got to look internal. Maybe your food isn't on point. Maybe your portions are too small. Maybe your prices are too high. One of the things in food trucks now is everybody comes out and everything's like $16, $17.
Yeah.
And people, we're not getting raises.
Right.
The general public is not getting raises to cover the food increases. And I think that's why, you get so many people complaining about prices and stuff. And, you get the people just trashing people on Facebook and stuff like that. So it's, it's a double-edged sword. You gotta, you've got to change. Like with COVID, we had to switch our whole restaurant concept to takeout and run stuff out to people and stuff like that. And, all the third parties, and, some of the drivers wouldn't wear masks.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you can't come in if you don't have a mask. And then they would leave, and then they'd leave us bad reviews or something like that. So you're dealing with a different client there too. It's not the customer, and they're not caring about the rules.
Yeah.
So, that it made it difficult. But you change and you adjust.
Yeah.
Do you want to stay open or do you want to close?
Right.
Well, I'm not ready to end my food thing. I want to stay open.
Yeah.
And, so I dug it out, I had a friend that would come into the restaurant and leave a card on the register. And if she got like a bonus or something at her job, she would give it to me. to help keep my restaurant open.
Wow.
You know, not stuff that she would talk about to anybody.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not going to say who it was
Right.
because she'd be mad at me. But, I mean, I can't tell you how important that was to me because it seemed like every time she came in, we were like at the lowest point and we were struggling.
Wow.
You know, because we lost like a third of our business the first day they shut down COVID. Like all our walk-up business from, you know, businesses that were around us, gone. Everybody went home. You know, so like that's the first thing you saw that next day. I was like, holy crap, is this the way it's going to be?
Yeah.
And, you know, we still had the SU students and, you know, the third parties and stuff like that. But then SU went home.
Right.
You know, we had a catering job the day before they went home, and it was for a sorority for 150 people. And the night before, the university made them cancel. We couldn't even drop the food on the porch because somebody got COVID.
Wow.
So how can you justify that? You know, it's like, I can drop the food on the porch and not contact anybody. But they wouldn't allow them, and they said they would shut the sorority down if they did it.
Holy cow.
So, I mean, this is what the girls told us.
Yeah.
And they were upset because the people were all still there. They were quarantined all together. And, you know, then they didn't have any food.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of things happened that were like, why can't we deliver? You know, does that make sense?
Sure. Those early days of COVID were crazy.
Oh, they were brutal.
I'll never forget. I was driving. It was right before the governor had shut everything down, and I was driving on my way into Gerhar's. I was going in early, and Paul Valenti called me, and he said, "Hey, if you haven't already, go to the grocery store and stock up. The governor's going to shut everything down today." And I did a U-turn and went to the Tops over in the ghetto where I was, and went, and I was just started grabbing every canned and bag of rice thing that I could get. And
toilet paper?
Yeah, I called. I think my wife has always had this weird thing of buying a 32 pack of toilet paper at all times at the house.
God.
So we didn't have to struggle with fighting somebody for toilet paper back then. But I was just grabbing all this stuff, and even when I got home, I was just try to do it as fast as I could so I could still get to work. And I remember she was already working from home. She worked for the state.
Oh, okay.
She still does, but she was working in the Department of Health for the state. And at the time, she did nursing home inspections, so she was surprise nursing home inspector. So she was already working from home, but I came home with all these canned things. She's like, "What the hell is this?" I was like, "I don't know what the hell is going to happen. We need to be prepared." But I was talking with the restaurant owner this week, and he was saying he was like I was making, and he opened during COVID. He opened his restaurant, and he was just telling me things were easier then than they are today.
Oh, it's brutal today.
Yeah, so, I mean, tell me about that. What are some of those things that make it so difficult?
Well, it's like even at the beginning when, COVID, you had a hard time getting product and stuff. But, for instance, we used to pay $32 for a case of bacon, raw bacon. It's now over $90.
Wow.
I have bacon on a lot of stuff in my restaurant. Yeah. I personally have not raised my prices since before COVID. I'm going to have to, and I'm sorry about that. But, when you see your numbers and the prices of things going up, but just that one item, and you buy 100 items, they're all more expensive. And that's the hardest part. And then the they fluctuate. And you've got 1 week it's here, and the next week it's here. Well, how do you cover that with your prices? I understand how restaurants their prices are, maybe $4 more than they used to be, or $10 more on certain things.
Yeah.
I understand why they have to do that. But I also think that you have to maybe not raise all of the things, $3 or $4, like the stuff that didn't get raised on you. We used to get our bread from Aldi's. We used to buy 40 to 100 cases of bread, depending on how many jobs we had a week. They cut us down to 2 cases. So we couldn't.
Wow.
I mean, what are you going to do? I had to buy sourdough bread, totally different product, soggy when you grill it. And then finally we found it at Cisco. It was a different loaf, but the same brand. So little things like that. People don't understand that. You know, you book these jobs for like 200-300 people, and you can't get your bread. And I was sending people to all the Aldis and getting 2 cases just so I would have 10. You know, it was so it was difficult. And then some of them, like the North Syracuse one, they wouldn't sell us any.
Wow.
Nah, get out of here. I'd have to send somebody in without a PB&J shirt to get the bread, you know, but that's very time consuming.
Would you do that because it was cheaper to go buy it like retail at Aldi's than it was to get it from a supplier?
You know, it was cheaper, but also it was I'd gone through all the bakeries in Syracuse, all the different breads, and I just couldn't get one to toast the way the Toronto bread does. And so it was basically, that's my product.
Yeah.
And that's what I want.
Yeah.
But then to have a gun held over your head that you can't get it, you know, it's like, what do you mean? I mean, I called the distributor and everything. They didn't want to know anything. They didn't care. I get like, 40 to 100 cases a week, and you're cutting me down to 2.
Wow.
A week, not a day.
That's crazy.
So whenever they got their deliveries in, you could take 2 cases. That's it.
Wow.
So it was, it made things complicated, and you have to change your product. And,
yeah.
Most people probably didn't notice, but I noticed.
Right.
Because when you want something a certain way, and consistency is what makes you successful.
Yeah.
So it, it was things like that. And I'm sure other restaurants had the same thing. A lot of times, like the burger, you couldn't get burger.
Yeah.
And, I go through a lot of that. Cheese prices went up.
Yeah.
And stuff. And so if you add them all up, I'm like, I need to raise my prices.
Right.
I need to definitely raise some of the prices because it's complicated.
Yeah.
You're running you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down, you're level, and you should be climbing.
Yeah.
With the amount of customers I have and stuff, I should be climbing, and I'm not. So it makes it complicated.
And wage increases.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to pay. What is it, $16 an hour to a dishwasher? And the kids never dishwashed before, never mopped or swept, and you got to teach them how to do it, and that's a lot of money to pay.
Yeah,
somebody doing dishes.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. Wages they're tough.
Yeah.
But I think they deserve it because you can't live on anything less.
For sure.
And I'm not one that say, they're overpaid, they don't deserve it, blah blah blah. But
Right.
they do. But I also try to take care of the people that are older that need the jobs.
Yeah.
They they got to pay their bills and stuff, and we don't really have full-time employees. It's part-time, and
yeah.
We have like 10 or 12 now, and in the summer we have like 20 to 23.
Wow.
So it's it's a lot of work, and you got to rely on a lot of kids.
Yeah.
You just try to pick the good ones, that they have a little bit of work ethic, and then teach them to be proud of what they do.
Yeah.
Instead of on their phone mopping. And, no, you got to put your phone away.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So they go in the bathroom and use it.
Right.
Guys, come on.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that kind of stuff is wild. I was at a client's and I was like walking up the stairs, and underneath they have like the stairs you can see through, and that's where they store their liquor. And I was walking up the stairs one night, and like there's one teenager that works there, or like not teenager, but she's like 22. And I can't believe I just referred to a 22-year-old as a teenager. I am fucking old.
You are
Holy
old.
hell.
It's getting there.
Oh my God. But she kept walking back and like getting on her phone, and I'm like, man, this is really bothering me just to see that,
They'll get on their phone right behind the line. I'm like, oh, you can't do that. It's like, people can see you. You can't do that. If the health department walked in, I'd be dinged for that.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, sorry. So then they'll take the trash out. Well, the trash is from here to the front door. You're gone 15 minutes.
Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh, a squirrel jumped out at me. I was like, okay, whatever.
That's hilarious.
Put your phone in your pocket. And we do. We have squirrels that go in our dumpster, and you open it up, and they fly out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
We've had
hilarious.
a few heart attacks there.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, but it really is. It's wild. It's I was going through Instagram, and there was some meme that popped up, and it was saying, in the 90s, your parents if your parents made $90,000 in like 92 and had a house and whatever, and the equivalent today for a salary of like a family of 4 that you'd have to make to live the same type of lifestyle was $215,000.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
And who makes it?
Right. Nobody.
like our middle class went into lower class
Yeah. It's crazy.
immediately.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid it'll never come up.
I know. That's what I keep thinking about. It's like, I've been talking to a lot of restaurants lately who've been telling me how bad it's been.
Yeah.
And I understand that it's January.
It's a tough month.
Right.
Especially
like breweries. I mean, craft beer is declining, but then you get hit with dry January, and then, again, you're really screwed.
Yeah.
But I've been talking to a lot of restaurants who've said that they've been down, and I think it's like a lot of us think it's like, oh, well, it's a time of year and that kind of stuff. But I think some of it has to do with the fact that it's just so damn expensive to go out to eat nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, I do it for a living. I go out to eat.
It's very expensive.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times you'll go out and you'll be disappointed.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, like times are hard. You got to make sure you're on your game,
I know.
and it's like I say, like when you own a restaurant, a food truck, you become like a food snob.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not really a food snob. It's just that I like flavor.
Yeah.
And so many places just don't have flavor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, just use salt and pepper, kosher salt and
just use that.
pepper. You're up on, you're up a level.
Yeah, for sure.
Salt's different when you cook with it instead of just putting it on after. You don't want people just
right
with the salt shaker, like, oh, and they got to get more, and they got to get more. That means there's a problem, And I notice things like that when I go to restaurants. I'll see people like, wow, they're really putting a lot of salt on. I wonder what they're eating. Like,
right.
I don't make sure I don't get that, but
yeah.
But it's I think that it's hard because restaurants have 3 cooks.
Mm-hmm.
All 3 are going to cook a little different. You're going to have a way that you want it done, and they're going to do that, but they're going to do it differently. And maybe too much salt from one. Like the younger people don't know the kosher salt is stronger and you use less.
Yeah.
And I had to adjust them to that. But it's I think restaurants really got to worry about flavor. It can look as fancy as it wants.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't have any flavor, you gotta,
Yeah, there's a restaurant that I kept seeing on Instagram, and like they're incredibly busy, and the most, Instagrammable food you've ever seen before. And I've gone there twice over the years, and every time I go in, I'm like, I'll get like a normal thing, and then I'll get a crazy thing just for the picture.
Right.
And I try the crazy thing. I'm like, this isn't really good. I'll take the, omelet with cheddar and broccoli. Thank you. I'm fine with that. And that is a big part of it for sure. I don't know how many people, there's definitely crazies out there like Jeff Rogers at Angry Smokehouse.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he traveled, the country for a month or 2 months.
Yeah.
And went to Texas and Kansas City and to go try barbecue before trying to cook it himself.
And barbecue's so special.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody makes barbecue different.
Yeah.
You go to all the different barbecue trucks that we have, and it's like they all have a different flavor, a different style, a different.
Yeah.
I'm used to brisket being sliced, and you have chopped brisket now and stuff, and it's all of them are good in their own way, but different. And I think that's one of the hardest ones to do.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
The hours.
Oh,
the hours it takes, especially if you're doing it.
Yeah.
Because there's a couple like Salt City Smokehouse who they use a stick burner. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, there's no break on that.
Yeah.
It's not like a gas assist where you can like toss it in there and walk away for a few hours. Somebody who's using a stick burner, they've got a certain level of crazy about them, for sure.
Definitely.
And I think that's restaurant life in general. Like we were at Hidden Fish.
I've never been there.
It's they just did a soft opening. It's Jeff Canals and Adam Weitzman's sushi restaurant in Skinny Atlas.
Yeah.
And so they just did a soft opening. What's today? Thursday, so Tuesday and Wednesday, and I got invited to the Tuesday one, and so I took a friend of mine and we went to check it out, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. The food was comped. We just paid for the drinks, which was very nice of them. And there's nothing else like it anywhere in Syracuse because it's like real like sashimi and stuff, So it's really cool. But anyways, our bartender is really like a mixologist. He's like looks like this kind of crazy looking dude, hair all over the place and funky glasses and an apron on, and and he's got all these like tattoos on his hands and like these like Gothic crosses on his fingers. And I'm like, all right, this should be a good drink. And so as we're like sitting at the bar talking to him, he had this Southern draw on, and I was like, so where are you from? And he said, oh, I'm from New Orleans. I just moved up here a month ago. My girlfriend left me, and when she did, I had like 4 guns pointed at my head. So I thought it would be time to get out of there.
Wow.
And I'm like,
time to leave. Exit stage left.
like part of me is thinking to myself, wow, I can't imagine a person living that sort of life. But then another part of me is like, well, that's the restaurant industry. Like, you know.
It is. It's a little crazy.
Yeah. We're not dealing with like Harvard graduates, you know. We're dealing with people who, you know, for the most part, I mean, I went to college, sure, but nothing that was where I had to choose between like an office job or, you know, like I didn't have to make a choice between like an accountant or an executive somewhere and the food business, you know?
Right.
And so when he first said it to me, I was like, when he was first telling the story, I'm like, that's not something as a customer I really want to hear. But then as I thought about it, I'm like, that's really what this industry is, you know?
It's chaotic.
It's a bunch of misfits. You know?
And it's really hard to hire people now.
Yeah.
Like to find cooks. Mm-hmm. You can't find them.
Really?
It's horrible.
Just like the long timers got out?
You know, I don't know if they got out or they're just not interested. Everybody wants to be paid cash.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough.
Yeah.
You know, and in the days from COVID, it never recovered where you get a lot of cash in. Your credit card outnumber your cash like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and we've had people come in off the street out at Liverpool and, you know, I want a job. You pay cash? Like, no.
No. Who pays cash?
Yeah.
Unless you're at like a festival or something.
I go, no.
Yeah.
I go, sorry. And then they stand there demanding. It's like, what? No, time to leave.
Yeah.
You know, right there's the door, dude.
That's
sorry.
wild.
Yeah. Well, you got a hiring in there. I go, yeah, for legit workers.
Yeah.
You know, that'll be on the payroll. And it's, you know, it's tough.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. But they've, you know, they made so much money during COVID that anything they go do is going to be less than that.
Oh my God.
So, you know, the market's been ruined. The work ethic's been ruined.
Yeah.
You know, and then when you hire people, you have no idea who they are. Some of them are going to work out and some of them aren't. Some of them are there for just a paycheck. And, you know.
Yeah.
So it's, you go through a lot more people. And that's tough. I couldn't imagine a big restaurant that has like, you know, 30 staff there that night. And I just couldn't imagine keeping the employees on hand and stuff.
Yeah.
And controlling of them. I mean, it's brutal.
That'd be crazy. I had a client during who they opened up during COVID also, just open like 3 days a week, 3 nights a week, only delivery. And making the menu was 5 items. It was all burgers.
Yeah.
And when they opened, the first 2 cooks they had hired left immediately after like the first night. And so
either left or you fired them.
Right. And so they were just going to shut the whole thing down. And I'm like, you just spent all this time and effort and you hired me to like do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, let's keep it going. This is cool. So I was trying to help them find a cook. And there was a guy in town, veteran, been cooking in Syracuse for 30 years. And he was just collecting unemployment because why the hell wouldn't you, you know?
Yeah.
Instead of going out. Right. And you're getting paid a shit ton of money that you'd have to give back. And so we had offered him $30 an hour cash to work 12 hours a week. And he turned it down. He was like, no, I'm good. I'm fine. I'll just stay home.
Yeah.
You know, so it was cash. So that way he could still collect unemployment. But it was just like, you know, dude, $30 an hour, you know, and he was like, no, it's like, I don't really want, I'm fine. I'll just wait until unemployment's done and then I'll go back to it. You know?
We'll have, I'll have people come in, I'll be doing dishes in the back and I'll come out and they're like, you're doing the dishes? Like, yeah, gotta be done. You know,
you
don't have enough people, you gotta do them.
Right.
And, you know, and I had to actually put a list up, like, this is who's on dish duty today to make sure they get done. You know, because nobody likes doing dishes and I get it. But we're a small restaurant. You have to do dishes. Right.
If you're not massive, if you're not some massive restaurant, you know, and nowadays, like, you don't really see massive restaurants anymore. But if you're not like a really huge restaurant and the owner wants to make money, you've got to be doing, I don't think you ever, as an owner, unless you're like certain, mass, you've got like a bunch of whatever the case is. For the most part, you're an owner operator in a single unit.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to make money, and
Yeah. Last night we got busy the last 2 hours at the restaurant, so they didn't get a chance to mop and sweep and all that, and I got back and I just jumped in and started mopping, helped with the order on. We got a big order in, and just hop in and get it done.
All right.
It's not. Don't stand there and watch.
Yeah.
And sit there and do anything, and then, thanks for mopping. Yeah, no problem. It's my job. I own this place, And, I'm not I always say, like, do you think Freddie Grimaldi would be doing dishes?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Stuff like that. And I make, well, who's Freddie Grimaldi? Yeah, forget it. You missed my point. You missed my point, because he probably wouldn't.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But it's hard finding the people that will do anything, and that's what I tell them. You cook, but you might have to bounce over and do dishes or clean this or something.
Right.
Everybody does everything. Nobody's exempt from it. And it's a team thing. So if you want to be a part of the team, you might have to do dishes. You might have to sweep. You might have to mop. But that's what makes us grow and able to grow.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Yeah.
Well, Pat, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Everybody's listening, get out to PB&J's Lunchbox, Old Liverpool Road, and right across
Firestone.
Firestone, yeah.
Yep.
And then the PB&J Lunchbox food truck is available. I would imagine, for hire for this year,
All year.
for weddings, and one of the only ones that it's open year round.
Yeah,
for the
there's
truck.
only about 4 or 5 of us, I think,
Yeah.
that are open. I know Cali Tropical and G-Woo's is open. I think Bob Barker's.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's
it.
That's about it. There might be a couple more, and they cater to catering instead of, it's hard to go out in 19-degree weather, and, people come out and we cook everything fresh, so they have to wait 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
You're not going to wait in 19-degree weather.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
use the Street Food Finder app, guys.
Yeah.
You walk out and pick up your food.
Yeah, it's great.
It's perfect for winter.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to wait.
Yeah, for sure. So definitely check them out. Find them on Instagram, Facebook, and book them for your next event this year, or find them at any of the big food truck events. So
Absolutely.
thanks, Pat.
Thank you.